Hello guys, welcome back to LR Anime. Guys, please like the video and subscribe to my channel. Today is explanation of upcoming episode of Throne of Seal based on novel. So let's start. Visago hesitated for a bit. Utilizing great prophecy technique one more time is not impossible, but my vital force could possibly come to an end as a result. Also, I cannot directly make a prediction on Long Houchen, but only on the future of our race. Although he did not directly reject it, that could only be considered a rejection. The demon god emperor waved his hands. Third brother, don't listen to Arbao's drivel. Since you are certain that our race's fate had been altered at that time, there is no longer the need for any more prediction. Only, we have to investigate this matter, and find out what humans' end goal is. Arbao declared sternly, Royal Father, I don't know why, but I have the constant premonition that Long Houchen is really still alive. The demon god emperor's look became severe. Enough. Don't be too opinionated. You are not your third uncle. How could you comprehend anything in premonitions? Arbao's expression changed as he stopped arguing the matter. With great timing, Huang Shuo declared, Your Majesty, I shall immediately investigate the human's goal and the temple's great gatherings matters. Yeah. The demon god emperor nodded, then expressed to the star demon god, then third brother, you can go back. Yes. Visago respectfully accepted, and left with Huang Shuo. The demon god emperor slowly stood, giving Arbao a glance. We must remember that even if there are some misgivings in your heart, it doesn't mean that you must speak them out. You especially must respect the moon demon god and star demon god. Arbao stood and joined the demon god emperor's side. Royal Father. With your cultivation, even all the other demon gods added up are no match. Why is there a need to? The demon god emperor snorted coldly. You know nothing. I will naturally tell you everything when I let you succeed to the position of the demon god emperor. All you need to know is that for demonkind, every single demon god is an important being, especially the moon demon and star demon. As long as the three of us stand on the same side, we will have the strength to calmly face any crisis. Alright, I shall go into seclusion from tomorrow onwards. The affairs of the demon emperor palace shall be left to you. Oh, right, regarding the investigation about Yu Yi, has there been any news? Arbao shook his head, not yet. She has already disappeared several years ago, and didn't leak a single trace. But I have found out that some troublemakers have been in gradual rise in our demon territory. Based on insider information, they seem to be a grouped organization, in the midst of saving power constantly. However, they are very tightly organized, and their roots are deep. I am still investigating. Feng Xiu let out an indifferent smile, just some agitated clowns. No need to fear. Don't pay too much attention to this matter. Your cultivation is the most major matter. Your royal father knows about your progress in the recent years. When I come out from this seclusion, I will give you more matters to handle. Your royal father promises you that when your cultivation will surpass the moon emperor, the position of the demon god emperor will be for you. Arbao's expression changed, but he immediately lowered his head. You are in your spring right now, royal father. Our race still needs your lead. Feng Xiu calmly expressed, no need to fake it in front of me. You are right now exactly like the past me. You may go then. Remember, in this period of seclusion, you must not bother me no matter what comes. Understood? Yes, Arbao said, then turned and left. Seeing his departing figure, the demon god emperor had a cold smile. So what about a relation of parentage? One in front of authority, everything is futile. Reaching this point, that handsome face full of holiness suddenly surged to his mind, causing him to unawarely become absent-minded, as he murmured, Child, are you really still alive? Right as the demon god emperor was still at a loss on whether Long Houchen was still alive or not, he had already led his crew to the Night Temple's headquarters in Dragon-Resisting Mountain Pass. With the Dragon-Resisting Mountain Pass in front of his eyes, he couldn't help but move with emotions. He had finally returned, not only getting to meet his mother, but also reunite with his father after a very long time. Since that year to now, it had been 10 years that he had not met with his father. That year, he had personally witnessed his father's use of the divine throne of doom and slaughter. Now that over 10 years had passed too, the time of their reunion had come, along with the time to gain a divine throne's approval. The 6 wings behind his back vanishing, Long Houchen was the first to land on the dragon-resisting mountain pass. Perhaps because of the dozen years spent reminiscing about his father, at the time of his arrival, he couldn't help but whistle to the sky for a long time. The other returning powerhouses of the Night Temple and members of the Demon Hunt Squad Bright Glimmer of Hope deliberately fell behind. The current Long Houchen was not only a decisive character for the Night Temple, but moreover the chairman of the union. Even if young, he had already proved himself to these knights with force. A limpid hissing sound came up, it was peaceful, and gave off a feeling of being carefree. Long Houchen's 6 wings then vanished as he reached the dragon-resisting mountain pass city in a flash. Before their arrival, news of his return had arrived to the Night Temple since long ago, and right now, fully attired knights came out on the walls of the Night Temple. Facing Long Houchen's descent, they all performed the most standard salute to welcome their new union chairman. A tall man stood in the midst of the entrance, handsome and resolute of face and broad-shouldered, as well as having an incomparably sharp look. When suddenly catching sight of that sudden golden figure, his look became all the more muzzy. Houchen! That golden figure coming from nowhere was thrown into his bosom in a flash, as the two hugged each other. Father! Long Houchen's voice was shivering, and had a great change even in its tonality. To any man, their father would be, in their youth, their idol. Moreover, what man was Long Houchen's father? He's the owner of the divine throne of doom and slaughter, the divine knight of adjudication and trial, Long Xingyu, of the Night Temple, a genuine outstanding talent of his generation, and an ultra-powerful retribution knight. His father had always been Long Houchen's pride. Deep in his heart, he had always been aiming and chasing after his father's tall shadow, which drove him forward. A great part of his efforts were aimed at getting his father to acknowledge himself. Even on this day after 10 years later, when encountering his father, that childhood admiration surged out, as this new union's chairman dripped with tears. Long Houchen's stature was no longer thinner than his father in the least. Father and son were both the same height, both prides of the Night Temple. All knights saluted them respectfully, as well as the far apart Long Tianying. With 3 generations of the Long family being among the most talented of the Night Temple, this Long family could be considered the family with the most authority out of the Night Temple. Although they had never minded this point, in the hearts of knights, especially young knights, their existences were unsurpassed, true idols. Feeling Long Houchen's surges of emotions, Long Xingyu, who was no longer capable of showing such pure feelings as his son, had a very complex expression in his eyes. His ordinarily incomparably steady hands shook lightly, as he continuously called out his son's name. Houchen, oh Houchen! Your father has let you down. I haven't protected you well. Father, don't say that. I am your son, and without your guidance, I wouldn't be my current self. I am already grown, and should take my turn to protect you and mother. Loosening the hug, father and son confronted each other, eyes filled with emotional colors. Long Xingyu took a deep breath, casting off his tears, as if suddenly making some resolve. He watched Long Houchen with a firm look and declared, Son, no matter what may have happened in the past, you are this Long Xingyu's son, my sole son. From today onwards, whoever wants to harm you will have to first tread over my corpse. This was a categorical declaration, sonorous and powerful, as if it was a persuasion. Looking at his teary father, his half-whitened hair, Long Houchen was once again overwhelmed with tears. That emotional self of his hadn't felt the covered pain in his father's previous words, only thinking about after that short period of a dozen or so year that had passed, his father at the 9th step of cultivation yet seemed much older. He did not even appear much younger than his grandfather, even though at his 9th step cultivation, he shouldn't age so fast. Obviously, over these years, this father had really encountered special experiences. Taking a deep breath, Long Xingyu barely stabilized his emotions, carrying a faint smile on his face, and suddenly knocking his right fist onto his left chest, loudly declared, Auxiliary head of the Night Temple greets the Union chairman. Long Houchen blankened, before suddenly coming to a realization. His identity was no longer that of chasing after his father like back in those years, at his hellish training in his youth. Now he was the first Union chairman, able to represent all humankind, to represent the entirety of the human union. His right fist energetically thumping his chest issued a bang sound, and Long Houchen no longer said any more. Right now, everyone from Bright Glimmer of Hope as well as the Night Temple's powerhouses were consecutively landing in town. Under Long Xingyu's lead, the dragon-resisting mountain pass grandiosely welcomed these knights' triumphant return. Although the final winners of the temple's great gathering were those from the demon hunt squad Bright Glimmer of Hope, out of the 6 great temples, the greatest winner was undoubtedly the Night Temple. The Mage Temple's assault under Li Zhongji's lead was in the end fruitless. Even if Long Houchen and his comrades had not arisen, the final champion would still be the deeply rooted Night Temple. After a majestic welcoming ceremony, Long Houchen and his father met Houchen's mother. The 3 members of his family were finally reunited, after over 10 years. Or rather, that should be a family of 4. Along with Long Houchen came another inextricable part of his life, the most beloved in his heart, Kia. 1. A filial relationship, or a father-son relationship. 2. This places both Houchen and Kia as being at least 21 to 22 years old. Yu couldn't like Kia anymore. Especially now that Kia's memories were back, she was no longer the cold saint daughter of Samsara of that time, and behaved charmingly in front of the eyes of Houchen's parents. In front of Long Xingyu and Yu's tearful faces, her own face was brimming with a smile of happiness. Looking at the son, future daughter-in-law, and wife in front of his eyes, Long Xingyu suddenly turned his head, wiping once again the tears on his face. He seemed unaware his fists were clenched, with his right fist thumping his own chest with force. As tears of regret filled his eyes, he turned to face his back to Long Houchen and the eyes of all three. A large hand came onto his shoulder. "Father, what's up? Isn't our family now gathered? Let past remain as past. See, you have so much white hair already. You have to be sure to take better care of yourself, or else you won't match mother." Long Xingyu slightly lowered his head, his voice still choking. "Child, these years you have been missing must have been very painful." Long Houchen let out a chuckle. "There's no such thing. We have only had a fortunate encounter after slaying the panther demon god. Everyone has been training in seclusion, and went in a state of deep meditation, which is why we have all taken so long to come back. Otherwise, we would rather have returned as early as possible." Long Xingyu suddenly turned his head to look at him. Seeing the warmth carried onto Long Houchen's smile, he could feel the purity of light from his son. "You are not speaking the truth." Long Xingyu watched his son, his eyes flickering, as if wanting to say something but still bearing it in the end. Long Houchen reacted with some shock. "Father, are you all right?" Long Xingyu shook his head, and forced a smile on his face. "Oh, you're right. Let past remain as past. We should look ahead for the future. No matter the trials you have faced, you will always be this Long Xingyu's son. This thing won't ever change. Let us, parent and son, fight demon kind alongside each other." Yu couldn't help laughing now. "You have been repeating that Houchen is your son many times already, Xingyu. Do you still need to keep insisting?" Long Xingyu's expression froze as he glanced at Yu. Complicated emotions filled his eyes. "But it very rapidly came back to normal. It may be because I have not seen my son for too long. It still feels unreal even now." Yu took Kia's hand. "I'm only concerned about when it is that Kia will really become my daughter-in-law." Long Houchen and Kia's expressions reddened at the same time, and the instant their glances crossed each other, Kia immediately lowered her head yet again. Long Houchen laughed gently. "Father, mother, if you both agree, let's make the trip to the Exorcist Mountain Pass. In this area, marriage proposals were to come from the parents' generations. Both parties would hang out together, before seeking for their parents' blessings to formally conduct their wedding." Kia hesitantly responded. "Houchen, we still have a lot going on. No need to rush." Houchen smiled. "That won't do. I've had this matter in my mind for too long. And even if we don't rush, Yinga, Yuan and the crew would be rushing. They are no longer as young. The new union has just formed, so there are really a lot of matters going on. But in some ways, I am just a nameplate as the union's chairman. The union's matters are handled under grandfather and temple head Li's responsibilities. Our priority is to progress in strength in order to be able to challenge the demon god emperor and those peak demon powerhouses in a short future. After our currently most pressing matters are taken care of, we should have a time of tranquility. At that time we will conduct our wedding. This way it should be about time for the others to get settled as well. And when family matters are done with, we should strive for cultivating together without delay." Yu nodded continuously. "Even if you're even busier, you cannot neglect the major events in life. Looks like it's settled. Let's head over for the Exorcist Mountain Pass to propose marriage in a bit." Long Xingyu's emotions having stabilized, a smile was now on his face. "Speaking of which, I have not met Lingxin for years." In some meaning, Kia's father could be considered half a disciple for Long Xingyu, whom he gave quite a bit guidances in the past to. Long Houchen quietly declared, "Father, I plan on heading for the shrine tomorrow. Han Yu and Zhong Fangfang will follow me. They are also qualified to enter." Long Xingyu shivered a bit. "So hasty?" Long Houchen nodded. "We are in urgent need of increasing our strength through divine thrones. My mount is on the verge of evolving, and that will very possibly be his last evolution. He needs me to be strong enough to help." Long Xingyu asked, "Is there a need for me to dispatch helpers from the Night Temple?" Long Houchen shook his head. "There is no need. We are enough by ourselves." He didn't dare let too many people know about Hao Yue's secret. Even Yang Wenjiao and Duan Yi were decided to take part after long considerations. He trusted Haoyue, but didn't dare let others know about the terrifying world he came from and his suspicious origins. Moreover, Haoyue's final evolution would be extremely dangerous. In case of accident there would be danger of death, thus Haochen did not want to implicate too many. After a short pause, Long Xingyu declared, Haochen, I know that your innate talent is number one out of several thousand years of the Night Temple's history. I know clearly about your goal. But remember well, if it won't do, don't be overly forceful. Any of the divine thrones can bestow you with enough formidable power, it need not necessarily be the divine throne of eternity and creation. Long Haochen responded, Father, I won't shrink back. I believe that I have the ability. If even I cannot succeed, then I'm afraid that the divine throne of eternity and creation won't ever find an owner. Long Haochen said so smilingly. In ordinary times, his formidably peaceful endeavor became full of an incomparable confidence. Right, if he turns out unable to earn the approval of the divine throne of eternity and creation, that would only prove that this original divine throne would actually be no being of light. Long Xingyu's eyes glimmered. Good. I expected no less from this Long Xingyu's son. Your father is expressing you his best wishes ahead of time. Long Haochen smiled, and please plan out the Golden Foundation Knight's trial for Yang Wenjiao and Duan Yi. It's just a shame that even if they manage to break through the 9th step, there may not even be some divine thrones left for them to attempt getting picked. In case Long Haochen, Han Yu and Zhong Fangfang all succeed, they will have accomplished the unprecedented feat of bestowing all the Night Temple's 6 divine thrones with owners. If this really comes true, humankind's morale will reach an unprecedented peak in history. Long Xingyu smiled about that. There is no need for you to worry about that. When you all grow, our divine thrones will someday have to be passed on. You must have had a tiring trip to go back there, so rest early. I already have a room prepared for you. But to Long Haochen's unexpectedness, Long Xingyu really had a place prepared for Kia and him to stay, but that was a single room. Ever since back when Kia had lost her memories, the two of them hadn't shared a room. First because of Kia's memory loss, and next because they were already all grown, no longer youths like in those times. Long Haochen was also afraid of being unable to control himself before they would get formally married. That was a large, comfortable room. But when standing inside, Long Haochen and Kia couldn't help but blush upon looking at each other, especially when seeing only that one large bed. Clearly, Long Xingyu and Bai Yu were thinking that they would have already crossed this boundary in their teens, and moreover, for them to want to marry so shortly, living together was very normal. Kia lowered her head and joined Long Haochen's side, gently taking off his coat for him, and said in low voice, I'm going to the bath. Hearing her mumbling words, Long Haochen immediately felt a difference. Scratching his head, he remained silent. Having deepened their love in those years, and gone through countless life or death experiences, their feelings already reached a fusional level. Although they felt somewhat awkward right now, they didn't have any need to explain themselves. Often making themselves presentable in turns, and recovering a bit from tiredness, Long Haochen sat on the bedside, quite lost in thoughts. But being lost in thought in such way was a form of happiness for him. It felt very cozy to be able to sit calmly without any matter going. This brought him an indescribable feeling of bliss. Kia changed into a long nightgown, her fair hand stretched out. Joining Long Haochen's side, she very naturally sat on his thigh, both arms coiling onto his neck, cutely fitting onto his chest. Haochen unconsciously held her thin waist, feeling the contact of her thigh and butt with his body. Haochen could only feel the pulse of that heart of eternity suddenly rise, and moreover, the fluctuations of spiritual energy grew in intensity. Over half of Kia's face was hidden behind her long hair, making her face impossible to see, but her breath was very warm as it continuously assailed Haochen's neck. Her body was becoming warmer, and holding her felt like holding a soft stove. Then the fire burning in Haochen's heart became only more exuberant. As he softly raised her hair, Kia's blushing face came to view. Haochen then gave her intensely breathing cheeks a light kiss, and as a faint aroma seeped into his heart, a light tactile sensation came onto her heartstrings. Kia. Long Haochen called out gently. As if unwilling to speak, Kia only let out a light sound of response. Holding one of her lily-white hands, Long Haochen couldn't help but urge out, look at me all right? Kia lightly pushed her head on his chest, as if for protection, but still ended up opening her eyes. Her light purple eyes were a bit hazy, her large eyelashes traced a beautiful arc, and her large eyes with water seeping out seemingly spoke something without words. Back in those years, when we first arrived in Exorcist City, you made a little house for us then. At that time, I had promised that I would give you a warm home to live in. Although father and mother have already accepted our marriage, I have yet to formally propose to you. I won't ever wrong you, and will make you the happiest person in this world. Saying this, Long Houchen's handsome face was blushing slightly, his eyes looking hazier, as his lips made a light contact with her eyelashes. Idiot. So early as back when I had put the forget-me-not ring in your hand, I had already given myself to you. As long as I can be together with you, what's feeling wronged once or twice? The path to the future against demonkind is long and broad, and I don't want to keep waiting. I'm afraid that if I get old, I won't be able to give myself to you at the peak of my beauty. Kia's voice was soft as she whispered these words in Long Houchen's ears, and carried faint traces of fragrance that kept assailing Long Houchen's heart. Long Houchen coiled his hand around Kia's waist, with his other hand on her supple hair, as her delicate white face was kept busy staring at him. 4 eyes looked at each other, seemingly immersed in the inverted images looking at each other. Lowering his head, Long Houchen made a light contact with Kia's icy lips. A trace of satiny skin appeared in the midst of the soft fabric at her waist, along with light trembling. Upon mere contact, Long Houchen became completely inextricable from the situation. They had already gone through fire and water for over 10 years, having gone through countless unimaginable things. Especially back in the Star Demon Pagoda, where Long Houchen became deceased, and Sia managed to bring him back to life, almost at the cost of her own life. They were no longer just 2 individuals, but a single thing with 2 hearts. Tightly hugging each other, and lightly kissing their counterpart, this instant only left satisfaction in them. Several years of love finally bloomed into a flower of extreme beauty. They were deeply connected with each other, this instant completely engrossed in each other. He carried Kia onto the bed, their lips remaining connected from beginning to end. And as Long Houchen's scorching hand carried the lightly shivering Kia, it headed below her nightgown and onto her slender legs. Warmth, accompanied with a feeling of softness, only made Kia's heartbeat stronger and stronger, but as it went, she still didn't show the slightest resistance. As she slowly drew closer to her man's neck, her love and attachment poured into his heart. As the image of Kia's post-fusion spiritual stove back in the illusory paradise appeared in front of Long Houchen, everything else followed just naturally. In the midst of light murmurs and light whimpers, their love finally ascended to a new level. Long Houchen and Kia were unskilled, but a human's most primary desire and instincts pushed them onto each other. A soft pain and an even larger love kept rising in the midst of this intrication, rising continuously in this mix. Finally, they passed this last threshold of perfect combination in the midst of a strong desire. This was all a bit sudden, but also very natural. With this setup as a basis, everything went as one could expect, as they gradually discovered their respective inexperienced selves, becoming increasingly familiar with each other. They had physical conditions far exceeding ordinary mortals, leading to an even more intense lovemaking. The first rays of sunlight bore through the windows in their room in dragon-resisting mountain pass as Long Houchen slowly awoke from slumberland. His senses were still a bit hazy, but the next instant, the scenery appearing next in front of his eyes stupefied them. The warm illumination of the sunset shone upon the quilt covering Kia's slender leg, reflecting upon the sparkling gloss. Behind the quilt, a pink gloss was visible on her skin, as if that was a pleasant lingering effect of last night. Kia was sound asleep, carrying a dim smile on her face as teardrops of happiness attractively hung onto her cheeks. That gave Long Houchen the irresistible urge of kissing her. Softly hugging her, yet fearing to wake her up, Long Houchen felt as if his soul had reached a new level, allowing him to draw out unlimited vital force from his heart. Men that have never tasted the female body won't ever be complete. And, right now, they were already a true man and a true woman. Long Houchen looked at Kia in such way, the light in his eyes growing warmer and warmer. No matter how long passed, it still didn't feel enough. Perhaps from feeling the warmth from Long Houchen's body leaning against her, their bodies became even more inseparably close. Since she changed from being a girl to a woman, the natural fragrance coming out from her body became even denser, to the extent that Houchen was almost no longer able to maintain self-control. But, thinking back about her light moans of pain from last night, he finally bore it, only softly fondling her back just like a piece of silk. Every time his hand crossed the arc traced by her enchanting waist, he couldn't help but sigh at that perfect creation. This instant, he really wished he could just melt into that chest of hers, forever gazing at her just like that, loving her dearly. Then came a hand, which had grabbed Long Houchen's back at some point, carrying some languidness and shyness as it reverberated lightly, "Just go. They should all be waiting for you. I will be waiting here for your triumphant return. No matter what trial awaits, you have to keep in mind that I will be waiting for you to return." In my mind, you are the most important thing that exists. Long Houchen tightened his arm and let out a low laugh. Then, let's keep going with what we did yesterday evening when I return, alright? Kia didn't utter a sound, just pinching Houchen's waist, yet was unwilling to exert strength in the end. Only pulling the opposite quilt, she used it to cover her own head with it. Long Houchen's face was full of a blessed smile, as he lightly turned over the quilt. Yet he couldn't help but lightly pinch her but before covering her properly using the quilt and declaring tenderly, "Wait for me to come back. Your man will definitely make it to be a divine knight." Half an hour later, when Long Houchen appeared in the night temple, Han Yu and Zhong Fangfang were already waiting. Long Xingyu was also waiting there. Seeing Long Houchen, the three of them all looked slightly distracted. Because they discovered, with shock, that Long Houchen's mental force seemed to have made a qualitative leap, as if the entirety of his basic qualities had an earth-shattering change. His originally pure being of light was now brimming with a hardly descriptible vital essence. The energies from his body reached the peak, and in particular, his eyes looked even more sincere and honest, as well as kind. They gave off the feeling that Long Houchen's cultivation had reached the next level just in the span of one night. But they did not understand what kind of trick that could be. Kia had changed into a mild purple-colored skirt and was seated across the window. It was snowing outside, and snowflakes were fluttering in the breeze in the skies, landing on the window, and slowly dissolving. A thin smile traced itself upon the corners of her mouth, as her heart was in peace and bliss. Actually, she understood very clearly that if not for her taking the initiative, Long Houchen would never have asked her at that time. But that was the timing she had chosen. Purifying force was something able to purify any impurity, and as the one chosen by the god of death, she chose this time to make him integral part of nature, so as to purify his everything a step further, while giving him the purest love. Light and purification were originally a perfect match. Her domain and Houchen's formed complementary beings, and the final line of defense between the two of them having gotten crossed meant that their respective auras and domains would blend together. Xia had given herself entirely to her man, for him to now reach an unprecedented peak level. Last night, Long Houchen had only endless love in mind, until this morning, sensing the changes on his body, he understood the trouble Xia took. But he said nothing, as their mutual understanding made it so that there was no longer any need for words to be exchanged by the two of them since long ago. Similarly, after sensing the moistening of Long Houchen's pure light, the current Kia no longer just looked all smiles. She also had a sense of that sublimation of her light of purification. Suddenly, Kia let out a giggle, and murmured irresolutely, "Shouldn't we, ahead of time? Are you all ready to go?" Looking at the three youngsters sitting across from him, Long Xingyu spoke calmly. The three of them made their salutations to Long Xingyu at the same time. "Senior Divine Knight, we are all ready to go." Although Long Houchen acted as the chairman of the union, when on the verge of challenging the Divine Knight's trial, he could only be treated as an ordinary knight for the Night Temple. Long Xingyu nodded. Any Divine Knight's challenge for a Divine Throne's approval is a big matter. Every rank you gain starting from the 9th step will bestow you with another chance for challenge. You should have all seen how many holy knights we have in the temple's great gathering. But there are only 3 of us Divine Knights. During the course of the challenge, you may only rely on your own experiences, and just like your experiences all differ, even the same person won't ever get the same challenge twice. I can only give you one advice: believe in yourselves and advance firmly. Speaking these words, Long Xingyu abruptly stood, as a torrential demeanor gushed out from his body. Although Long Tianying, Yang Haohan, and him were all 3 Divine Knights, Long Xingyu was actually the most powerful of these 3, due to being the only Retribution Knight, and moreover, the owner of the Divine Throne of Doom and Slaughter. "Follow me." Long Xingyu commanded the 3 straight toward the depths of the main hall. In there were the statues of the 3 Divine Thrones. Right, just statues, but even so, when Long Houchen's 3 were in front of the 6 Divine Thrones, they couldn't help but feel a mystifying feeling surge out. Facing the 6 Divine Throne sculptures, Long Houchen's gaze was directed at the central one. Compared to the others, that was the least flashy one. Entirely deep black, its tall seat back appeared simple yet steady, giving off a faint feeling of broadness. On the seat back were carved inscriptions of the sun, moon, stars, paintings of birds, flowers, and various vegetations. It all looked meticulous, yet appeared crowded and disorderly. With this, its blackened part appeared all the more inconspicuous. But, around it were another 5 dazzling Divine Thrones. The one that had left on Long Houchen the deepest impression was naturally his father's Divine Throne of Doom and Slaughter. Countless gems were ostentatiously inlaid behind. In its faintest inner part, One could see a Buddha's silhouette. Mighty and dignified, it could even be said to emit a sense of pressure. On the peak of its back, a semicircular scarlet-colored gem was visible, appearing just like the sun overlooking the earth, letting off a might as in doomsday. On what looked like the center of the chest on the front of the throne, the most dazzling part was a reddish-gold rhombus gem. Every corner of it was full of splendor. A bright luminescence shone upon it all around. 2 male lion sculptures were crawling in guard on the broad throne in roaring positions, and countless elegant decorative designs appeared to be flowing throughout the back of the chair. This statue looked simply the same as Long Xingyu's divine throne, only in a much shrunken version. Looking at it, Long Haochen couldn't help but stare blackly. Yet such a dazzling divine throne of doom and slaughter could only serve as a prop for that central pitch-black divine throne. For other divine thrones were also surrounding that black one. Divine throne of dread and pain. Divine throne of protection and mercy. Divine throne of knowledge and vitality. Divine throne of order and law. Every one of these 5 great divine thrones were dazzling, but they appeared at most only unremarkable when surrounding that central one divine throne. Under their props, that pitch-black divine throne gave off a supreme august and sense of mystery. Just like sheer darkness, it drew out Long Haochen's gaze. Han Yu and Zhong Fangfang were in different situations from Long Haochen's. Their gazes were directed at one respective divine throne for each of the two. Their expressions also froze. Long Xingyu, standing at the side, did not disturb them. As an experienced person, he understood everything. Every holy knight would, upon arrival, there, be attracted by these throne sculptures. And the first divine throne drawing their eye would become their target of choice. Of course, that was due to the divine thrones themselves, as the sculptures were no target of attraction. Truly the divine throne of eternity and creation. When Long Xingyu caught sight of his son's gaze getting caught by that pitch-black divine throne, he couldn't help but sigh secretly. Ever since the start of the Dark Era and the founding of the Night Temple, only 5 people had managed to be qualified to take the challenge of the divine throne of eternity and creation, but they had all without an exception failed. The last time was the Starry Sky Holy Knight Yang Haoyu's challenge. Getting the qualifications to take the challenge was already ample proof of their talent and ability. As for Long Haochen, the 6th challenger of this honor, would he succeed? Long Xingyu unawarely became tense upon this thought. Long Haochen's group of 3 stood dull for close to half an hour's time, gradually able to perceive streams of holy air rising around them. Above these 3 divine thrones came off a faintly discernible brilliant glint. The divine throne of eternity and creation that Long Haochen was facing was lit by a soft white light of softness. It was very faint-tinted. An indistinct connection started to form in the deepest part of Long Haochen's soul, and a fantastic feeling spread to him, as if something was calling out for his name. Long Haochen stood calm and unmoving, only going off to calmly sense the changes on this aura. His foremost feeling was peace, an incomparable peace. In a calm devoid of any distracting feelings, it seemed to be challenging Long Haochen's tolerance and immovability, while calmly connecting to him. What approached Long Haochen's senses was a boundlessness, an unbordered broadness. Such a feeling could only be matched by when he had seen Kia standing in that boundless night sky back in the Tower of Eternity. Only, while the starry skies do have a limit, the aura coming out from the divine throne of eternity and creation seemed devoid of the slightest boundary. Suddenly, a bright light shone upon the divine throne of terror and sadness. As it swept forward, Han Yu's body disappeared the next instant. These 6 divine throne sculptures were originally projections of the genuine divine thrones. Only by getting their approval shall one be able to get started in their trials process. But some holy knights actually don't even get any opportunity to even take the trial. Just when Han Yu had disappeared, another flash of light followed through, this time from the divine throne of knowledge and vigor, following which Zhong Fangfang also disappeared. Only Long Haochen stood at the same place, unmoving and still sensing calmly the aura of the divine throne of eternity and creation. Long Xingyu, still standing on the side, couldn't help but furrow his eyebrows. He knew very clearly that the earlier one would get the qualifications to be tested by a divine throne, the higher his affinity with the divine throne would be. Han Yu and Zhong Fangfang reached speeds that hardly differed from the young him from that time, which was to say that they were likely to be approved by their divine throne. But how could Long Haochen, whose domain reached the supreme level, as well as having a light god physique, still have yet to start with his own trial? Could the divine throne of eternity and creation really not be approving of him? Long Haochen was currently sunk deep into his own world, able to perceive that tranquil force in the midst of linking with his aura. But mysteriously, it seemed to be rejecting something, as a very uncomfortable feeling started to surge into Long Houchen's body. An image started to form in Long Houchen's brain. This white, boundless world contained a golden dazzling light. Contrasting with the surrounding tints of white, it seemed as if possibly about to dissolve at any time. But in the midst of this golden light came two other colors, one of which Long Houchen was very familiar with, the purplish gold exclusive to Haoyue's being. Part 1.